Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. I get questions all the time about how to play songs and how to improvise, and people ask me so many different questions. But one of the main questions I get is when I first look at a song, I learn the melody maybe, and I'm trying to add some scales in or some things, and I just don't know what notes to focus on when I'm playing. How do I actually approach the song in a way where I can learn what to actually play over the song, and then I can apply all my practicing to it? Well, the most important thing harmonically when playing through any song is to learn the chord tones of each chord change in the entire song. All right, so what does this mean? You just arpeggiate them up and down and hopefully you can connect them later? Well, sort of, but not really. I actually have a much simpler, concise way to learn the chord changes and be able to perform them on your instrument, and also to be able to memorize them so you can accurately play them every single time. Whenever you're practicing anything on an instrument, whether it's just a written piece of music, an exercise, or memorizing chord changes to a song, every time you do something incorrectly, you're actually training yourself to do it wrong. You're developing that incorrect finger pattern or incorrect muscle memory or something like that. So what you want to do is think about practice makes permanent. So you want to learn it in a concise and efficient way from the beginning so you don't have to go through making all those mistakes, and you can actually memorize the chord changes, learn them, and be able to play through the songs effectively every single time. What I'm going to do is show you a really simple and cool exercise, and I'm going to walk you through the entire process and break down each chord note by note, then build it back up so you can start creating great solos today. I'm going to be going through a PDF worksheet that I created for this video, and I want you to have it completely free to follow along. All you have to do is go to the top of the description below or go to the pinned comment, click that link, enter your email address, and you will get an instant email sent to you with the link to download this PDF worksheet. I have parts for C, E flat, and B flat instruments, so just make sure you choose the one that's for your instrument. So now I'm gonna dive into that PDF, so make sure you have it handy. This video is strictly about how to learn and practice the chord tones to any song, and it's not about how to connect lines between them. I have other videos on voice leading and lines and stuff, but this one is specifically for someone looking to learn the chord changes efficiently to any song. As you see on the PDF on page 1, it says outlining chord changes, Blue Bossa. That's going to be the song I'm using for this exercise today. It's a great standard, and you should all know it if you don't already. Also in the top left, you probably see that I'm going to be using the C lead sheet. That's just because I don't know what instrument you play, so I'm just going to talk in concert. But if you play tenor or soprano, look at the B flat sheet. If you play alto or bari, look at the E flat sheet, so on and so forth. So the first thing you want to do is just figure out what the chords are. Just kind of go through and figure out what the chord tones are first before playing them, before trying to practice them. You might say, well, isn't this skipping a bunch of steps? No, you have to kind of write it out, chart it out first, and just understand what's there before you break it down. So there's going to be some alterations here that I did to kind of simplify things a bit from the way you might see the lead sheet. So I'm going to go from these changes, and these are pretty common changes. So right out of the gate, we're going to have concert C minor. Whenever you see C minor, C with the lowercase m, that literally means a minor triad. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, I play minor major 7, I play minor 7, I play minor 6. There's some alterations you can add later. I want to keep it simple, minor triad. And you notice right above, I wrote minor triad is 1, flat 3, 5. So whenever I use numbers, I'm basing it off of the root's major key. What I mean by that is the root is C, and C minor triad means you take the 1, the flat 3, and the 5 of C major. Okay, so C major has no sharps, no flats, so you would take C, E flat, G. The second measure, I didn't write it again, but that little percent sign just means repeat what you have in the first measure, so it's 2 bars of C minor. Then we have another minor triad, this time it's F. So you would take the 1, the flat 3, and the 5 of F major, and you get F, A flat, C. Now we're gonna get into some 7th chords down in the second line. So this chord is D minor 7, flat 5. So for any minor 7, flat 5 chord, you're gonna take the 1, the flat 3, the flat 5, and the flat 7 of that chord's or that root's major key. So in D, you would flat the 3, so F sharp becomes F natural. You flat the 5, A becomes A flat, and you flat the 7, C sharp becomes C. This is why it's really important to know all of your major keys and your major key centers. I think if you can only practice one thing on your instrument for the rest of your life, it would be major scales, major keys, because everything to me is based off of that. So after the minor 7, flat 5, we have a dominant 7, flat 9. Once again, here, some people write dominant 7, sharp 9, because the melody note is actually the sharp 9, but most people when they're improvising, they just think of it as a dominant 7 flat 9 because it lays nicely with a long minor 2-5-1. Don't stress about this too much. The overall sound is dominant 7 flat 9. So you have 1 3 5 flat 7 like a dominant 7, then we add the flat 9. So G, B, D, F, A flat in this case. Then we're back to our C minor triad, just like measures 1 and 2. Now we have a major 2-5-1. So we have a minor 7 chord, E flat minor 7. Those are the 4 notes there, E flat, G flat, B flat, D flat. Then we have a dominant 7 chord, 1 3 5 flat 7. So you take the 1 3 5 flat 7 of the root of A flat, so you get A flat, C, E flat, G flat. And then finally a major 7 chord. That's just the 1 3 5 7 of the root's major key. So in this case it's D flat major, D flat, F, A flat, C. Once again, know your major scales, and all these alterations become just literal alterations. You don't have to think about anything else other than altering a major scale. Finally, here we're back in the last line, and if you notice, these 3 chords, the D minor 7 flat 5, G7 flat 9, and the minor triad is the exact same as up here in line 2. So it's the same exact notes, same chords. And then the last measure, some people put like a short 2-5 here, but I'm just going to keep it simple and put just a G7 flat 9, which if you're thinking Roman numerals is a 5, leading back to the 1. Okay, so that's a super quick overview. I wanted to just show you what each chord is and how you construct it. You can, once again, have this worksheet for yourself. You can pause the video, rewind it. Understand that all you do is see what the chord is. So if it says minor 7, like the E flat minor 7, you just take 1 flat 3 5 flat 7 of E flat major. Because a minor 7, those are the numbers. I might have another video if you want that really breaks down every type of chord, every type of triad, every type of 7th chord. If you do want to see that video, put it in the comment down below and let me know, because if you want it, I'll make it. Now that we have all the chords and we kind of know what the notes are, how do we practice it? Now, everything up until now is just kind of standard stuff that everybody does. They learn the chords like this. But now I'm going to show you my process for the best way to learn the chord changes to any song. Now, if you go to page 2 in the PDF, you'll see 2 separate choruses here. One says 1 note per chord, root, or the 1, and one says 1 note per chord, the 3rd. So the first thing you're going to do is literally play only the root of every single chord throughout the song. Because this song has only 1 chord per measure, you're only going to play 1 note per measure, so just play it as a whole note. So if it's C minor, you're going to play the note C, and then you're going to repeat. You see F minor, you're going to play the note F. You see D minor 7 flat 5, you're going to play the note D. What this does is it helps you figure out the chord movement, the chord motion, the roadmap, if you will. You're going to know exactly when the chords move, and the best way to start that is on the root. That's the 1. That's what the bass is playing. That's the basis of the chord. So now I'm going to play a recording of myself playing the root of each chord through Blue Bossa. Check it out and follow along as I do. All right, so you can hear that I moved exactly when each chord was moving, and I held it for the entire measure. This is really good for you to do, because if you can't do this part, I don't want you jumping on and trying to play all these 2-5 lines and other complicated things. Just follow all the chords, just playing the root, and then if you could do that, let's move on to the next exercise. So if you scroll down a little bit and you look on the bottom of page 2, you'll see it says 1 note per chord, the 3rd. So now it's going to get a little more complicated because the 3rd might change depending if it's minor, major, whatever. So as you see, same exact thing as before, but instead of the root each time, I'm going to be playing the 3rd. This is why it's important to know the quality of each chord. For example, C minor, the 3rd is going to be E flat. If it was C major, it would be E natural. So make sure you know all of those chord tones for every single chord. Now we're going to play the 3rd each time. Also, this is a great note to land on. This is what I consider the most stable and best sounding note if you're aiming for chord tones to land on. So this is a really important one. So once again, I'm going to play each 3rd of each chord now and follow along as I do so. All right, once you can do that, then we're going to jump to, you guessed it, the fifth. So if you look on page 3 now, you'll see 1 note per chord, fifth. Same process. You're going to play the fifth of each chord all the way through. This can be a little tricky because we do have that minor 7 flat 5. So just be aware of that. If you didn't write it out ahead of time, if you're just thinking of it, make sure if you have an altered fifth, you play that correct note. So here we go. Follow along as I play the fifth of every chord. Now for the final exercise, as you see, I'm going to be playing the 7th and the 9th of every chord. The reason why I combine this is because most of the chords in Blue Bossa as written don't have a 9th, so I didn't want to just do all the 7s and then just do a complete chorus of like only a couple chords that have the 9th, so I combined them. So the only measures that have the 9th is that concert G7 flat 9, there, and there. So I'm just going to, instead of playing one whole note, I'm going to play the 7th for 2 beats, and then the 9th for 2 beats, the flat 9th in this case. Also, because I was strict to saying that the C minor and the F minor up there and down here are just triads, there is no 7th. So I could have done the flat 7 or the natural 7 to create a minor major sound, but I want to stay strict with it, so I just wrote the 5th again. So, don't sue me on that one. But understand that, no, G is not the 7th of C minor. But because I only wrote it as a triad, there is no 7th, but I wanted to play something. So, with all that being said, please follow along as I play the 7th and the 9th, and sometimes the 5th of every chord. All right, if you're able to do all of that so far, just play 1 note per chord as whole notes or half notes if there's the 9th and the 7th there. Now what you're going to do is add some non-note musical elements to it to start fitting the style and fitting the musical situation. In this case, we're playing a bossa nova. So you should have some reference recordings in your ear already. I talk a lot about reference recordings and listening to the greats on not only your instrument but all instruments, but specific styles. So in this case, you should be listening to some bossa nova classic recordings. If you want some recommendations on that, please let me know in the comments below and I'll respond with some of my favorites for you. What you don't want to do here is just go from 1 note per chord to now just doing everything. What you want to do is pick 1 note and add some non-note musical elements to it. I'm going to pick the 3rd because, like I said earlier, it's my favorite landing note to play. It's really stable. It gives color. It gives quality. And I really enjoy playing the 3rd over every chord, and it works over literally every chord that has a 3rd. So I'm going to play an entire chorus of Blue Bossa, only playing the note of the 3rd of each chord, but I'm going to be changing things like the rhythm, the articulation, the dynamics to fit the style of the bossa nova. The great thing about this is you don't have to focus too hard on different notes and scales and chords. Yes, you have to move with the chords as they move, playing 1 note per chord, but you're mostly focused now on adding those other elements to it because you've already gone through the process of playing 1 note per chord. Check it out. Okay, I hope you can start hearing that because I'm following the chords, the notes work, or the note in this case works all the way through, but now that I'm adding those other elements and I'm changing the phrasing, rhythms, articulation, so on, it's starting to sound more like a solo, more like actual music and not just an exercise. So if you can do that, if you can pick a chord tone, and by the way, you don't have to pick the 3rd, you can pick any of them. You could do 1 chorus on each of them. You could do a whole chorus on the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, whatever. But I just wanted to demonstrate doing the 3rd. Now what you're going to do is try to play an entire solo using any of the chord tones in each chord that you want. You might think this is kind of a bigger leap from just playing one note, but I promise you, if you go through this entire process and not skip steps, you're going to have a really good handle on the entire tune because you've heard the roadmap of the tune a bunch of times now. That's another sneaky thing about this exercise, is that because you've gone through it so much and because you're always moving notes, you're not playing common tones and holding the same note for multiple chords, you're always moving to different notes every time you do it, one note per chord, whether you're adding rhythms or not. You should be pre-hearing where the chord changes are moving. You've gone through it at least 4 or 5 or 6 courses already or more. So you should start hearing when those chords move. So now you're going to be more easily able to just add all the notes of each chord. So here are the parameters for this. You're going to use any of the 4 or 5 chord tones of each chord. Don't add any passing tones. Don't add any chromatic stuff. Don't add any scale stuff. Only use the chord tones. So it can be passing tones if they're in the chords. But I want you to add those non-note musical elements to it to make it, a musical solo. So I want you to listen to me do that first, and then I want you to try it for yourself. Check it out. Okay, are you starting to hear that you can kind of tell when the chords are going to move now? Because you've gone through that process, like I said, of moving from chord to chord to chord, you're starting to pre-hear each chord, and you hear those cadences. Oh, and you hear where it goes back to the top, or you hear when it resolves to the major chord versus a minor versus dominant. That's the great thing about this exercise. It teaches you a lot of things about the chords, but it also helps you with the roadmap and the actual musical context of playing the tune. Now for the final thing I'm going to do is just play a couple courses of just soloing over the tune. I'm not going to put parameters on specific notes or rhythms or whatever. I'm just going to play a solo over the song. But when you're listening to me do it, I want you to listen for some of the chord tones that I'm landing on and when I'm moving. Because once again, you've gone through this process. You should start to hear where those landing chords are. You should hear where the cadence is. And I want you to kind of listen, oh, you're landing on a chord tone, or maybe not a chord tone. Or maybe I'm stretching it out, building some tension before landing on a chord tone. That's all stuff that I've gone into detail in other videos, and I will go into detail in future videos. But I want you to really listen for that as I just play a solo. Check it out. All right, if you've gotten to this part in the video, thank you so much for watching. I know this will help you out. That's the reason I make these videos, is because I want to help you in a clear and concise way, because a lot of the ways that I learned were not clear and not concise and not efficient at all. I always joke that I'm one of the laziest musicians I know, and I mean that because I don't want to waste time to get to the end point. If my end goal is learning this piece of music, I want to find the most efficient way to learn that piece of music so I can then go do other things, right? So I know a lot of you are like that too. And this is really what I'm trying to give to you, is the most efficient way to learn how to play music, and in this case, learn chord changes. If you haven't yet, please make sure you download the PDF for free. All you gotta do is click the link in the pinned comment or at the top of the description, put your email in, it'll send you an email with all 3 PDFs in C, B flat, and E flat. Make sure you download the one for your instrument, or download all 3, that's up to you. But make sure you're looking at the correct sheet for the instrument you're playing. If there are other topics you want to see me teach here on my YouTube channel, please, I'd love to hear from you. Put it in the comments below. The reason why I make these videos, like I said, is for you. So if there's a specific topic that I haven't covered yet, or I've covered maybe in a more vague way in the past, and you want to see me kind of hone in on it, please let me know, and I would love to do a video for you. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.